Hello, everyone. I'm Zach,
I'm Bradley.
and that dramatic pause is brought to you by someone who I know you guys have missed seeing. Our
It's brought
semester.
to you by somebody that is reading about subwoofers.
uh,
Sorry, I'll be on topic. I promise.
all right, and so now we are both done with our semester, and what a hell of a way to end our semester with the repeal of net neutrality. It's
Yep, it's good times.
it's great times. So yeah, you want to go ahead and start us off, and we'll just divulge into the avalanche.
I would honestly rather you start it off, being that you're the one studying to be a lawyer.
No,
I think
okay.
this is something you can explain a whole lot better.
So
The next step, because they've already voted. So what's the next step from here, as
the
far as
next
how it goes
step
to Senate, everything?
it is going to be appealed, whether that be by groups like the ACLU or other organizations. So they're already looking into it, and it's going to happen. Anything controversial like this normally gets some type of appeal. I know that some people are going to be talking about the Congress route, which I'm going to laugh and tell you you're dumb, because the Congress route won't currently work. That list just came out with the majority of people that are against net neutrality having received money from big telecoms. If I can find that, I will link it. If I cannot, please go ahead and leave a comment with that link. But yeah, that's kind of where we sit. So technically, we're in an interim without net neutrality. I don't think they can go ahead and start applying this new ruling immediately until it maybe goes through the appeal process, or it's a really crap
I don't
situation.
think you'll see really a whole lot changed very soon anyway. But
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just a really weird situation. I actually thought that they'd be able to sway Ajit Pai, but then he just released his meme lord video, which was horrible. He's, jeez, I can't even. Uh, this is maybe a reason why Congress should have to take more heavy hands in these type of votes to begin with, because the fact that 5 people determine the entire ruling over the internet and how it's going to be divvied out to the American public is kind of crap. But
yeah.
if anything, we've now learned that big corporations can actually infiltrate a small group, and if it's a small group, 2 to 3 people is a majority in some cases. So what can we do? But all right, so I think we should talk about the repercussions of this monstrous vote. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk about that, and then I'll just spitball with you on it.
What do you mean by repercussions, though?
So let's talk about the state of Oklahoma and the only 2 providers we have being AT&T and Cox.
Yeah, dude. It's obviously we're going to see a bunch of network growth. I mean, the problem. And
Yeah,
that's kind of the whole thought. When why? Like, what? Why would they have any desire to completely redo the network and have these nice breakout companies and all this when they're already going to be making more money because they get charged for fast lanes? So I don't.
definitely.
As far as repercussions, I mean, we probably won't see repercussions for a while. But, I mean, obviously, with how the outcry against this, they're kind of going to probably take it fairly slow.
I
But,
can
yeah, for
definitely see
somebody
that.
like our state, it's really kind of sucks for us, especially in a lot of the rural areas in Oklahoma where it's like they don't even have an internet service provider.
I've got a weird case for you, actually. I have a friend in New York, and his entire apartment building is wired up specifically and only for Comcast.
My friend, yeah, down in Norman, his apartment building's only AT&T.
Yeah, so
That's their only option.
you have no option. That is the only one, unless you're willing to pay the owner of the entire building for complete rewire. Which, ha 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 ha, no.
Well, I mean, I guess your other option would be, I know if you go out of town and stuff, especially this is common in Oklahoma, you see the satellite. I mean, I would imagine you could probably use that in that apartment building, but that is literally just getting emails type speed. Like, it is laughable.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. I don't think people are realizing the filtration that can occur from the internet with abysmal speeds at that. So one of my favorite things I was talking about, especially, I'm going to frame this somewhat politically, okay? Sorry to viewership that this is just where it's going to be at, because this is where the majority of it's at. So the majority of center right-leaning and center barely left-leaning people are trying to say that this will not inhibit the information that you gather every day. And I'm going to tell you, as someone who just wrote their capstone over information filtration, yeah, you can dream your pipe dream, but it's going to happen. So if you're a Republican and you want to go to Breitbart, hope you don't want to go to Breitbart. It's not a very good news source. At least go to Fox. Anyway.
You always get your news, as many news sources as possible, right?
Exactly. Always get multiple news sources because filtration happens. So let's say you're with Cox. I'm not saying Cox is Republican, Democrat. I'm using their name as, forget it, ISP. This ISP is democratically owned. Like a Democrat, super left-leaning, absolute blue as it can get, leads this company. You as a Republican are going to be trying to visit places like Breitbart, Fox, places typically with that narrative. Now, if I'm that owner, why should I offer you a package that you could get dissenting information from? Why don't I just keep that speed abysmal and then just give you package options for all the other news outlets?
I see what you're saying, but I have to say that as far as being able to kill net neutrality and everything, they'll probably keep the speeds going to places like Fox, who are defending the whole killing it, probably pretty high.
Oh, no. Yeah.
They're probably the opposite of that.
Well, one of the places, I'm just saying, like, in the case of an actual, the opposition gaining a foothold. Because think about it. If your enemy's engaging in something, won't you engage in the same crappy tactics?
Yeah.
So, and then that works vice versa. A Republican-owned ISP, you want to go to CNN? Ha ha ha! Fake news, not gonna happen. But that's the problems you're dealing with when you're dealing with any type of political filtration, and that's what this is going to be. This is going to end up being political filtration. So you're going to end up getting certain stories and stuff filtered to you. You're going to get agendas pushed.
You bring up an interesting point that I had never thought about. Honestly, I never thought about it being used for political gain afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just wrote my capstone paper, shameless plug. It was over the Chicago Tribune and compared it to the New York Times during World War II. And so during that, McCormick, the leader of the Chicago Tribune, had a very large Polish community in Chicago versus New York.
Yeah.
And so anytime he would talk positive about Stalin, he would offset it 2 pages later with talking about how abhorrent he is to the Polish people, etc. While the New York Times would just bolster up how great the Russians are doing overseas on the Eastern Front. So that's what you deal with. It depends on the outlet. They can mold anything. They're not lying to you. They're changing the outlook.
Withholding truth.
Yeah, creatively withholding truth. And that's what can happen on either side. And that's
They're just different facts, all right?
Alternative facts. But it's...
Yeah, there you go.
It's a really big problem for both parties. This is a bipartisan issue, and it's going to end up affecting both parties.
Yeah, that's I mean, as much corruption as there is on the complete political sphere as it is.
Oh, yeah.
I had never thought about that. That's pretty good. Pretty interesting idea. Scary idea.
Yeah, it's very scary, and I've done nothing but think about it the last couple of days. And then the other thing, the internet is almost a precious, I don't want to say commodity, because that almost fits along with the idealism of ending net neutrality. It's a commodity. At this point, it's a necessary resource. I hate to compare it to water, but it's how we dissect information every day. It's how we figure out what's going on around us. And it can also help us with potential problems of our everyday lives. So say, I'm about to go to work in the day. Well, there was a gas pipe that blew up at your work today. It's probably going to be on the news somewhere. You're probably going to get some type of notification from the net, right? Well, if it's not too big of a net thing, like the problem is, if it's not a large conglomerate news, it's not going to get the same type of bandwidth allocation. So when you would go to try and get to these websites for information locally, I feel like it would actually cause local information problems.
Yes and no. I wouldn't really say it's a necessity, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have local news, you have local newspapers, you have, especially in smaller towns like ours, if a pipeline blew up,
Yeah, we
you
all could
know
probably
about it.
see it blow up.
I mean, generally larger towns will be covered widely on the internet as it is. I don't know. I wouldn't know if it's necessarily a necessity.
And then my
I
other
certainly see what
my
you're saying.
other thing when looking at it is there's no competition in the United States ISP market,
Oh Lord.
especially in our area. I mean, there might be in some areas where, bless them, the saviors of the internet now no longer saviors because it's not very good project for them. When Google was bringing fiber to cities, they were really showing us truly how fast the internet can be, as well as how cheaply you can get it.
And they were being fought to use those utility lines and everything,
Yep. And so
fought every step of the way.
now, if the true market was there and there were multiple ISPs to choose from, yeah, it actually could end up being a good system with the repeal of net neutrality. But if the free market's not there,
Yeah, it'd be like your cable. You pay, what channels you want, what packages you want, and everything else. It could easily go the same way.
yeah. So it's just not going to work out the way it is right now. And so that's why we need net neutrality, because so many corporations have now become large mega corporations to the point where they can snuff out any kind of local growth. So there's a story that was growing 2 weeks ago, I believe, in Colorado. A small city was actually trying to create its own broadband network, and it was being fought tooth and nail by the largest ISP provider in Colorado.
Oh yeah,
That's the problem. If we want a truly competitive market, then we need to make it open. If you truly want to talk about a repeal of net neutrality and opening up the market potential, that's one of the problems.
yeah.
I honestly
And what's this
think.
going to do for anonymous browsing too? Because it seems like
Ooh, yeah.
if they're getting to choose what sites what you're using your internet for and everything, that just gives them that much more information over what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You can block things like getting on Tor, for example, that'll hide from your ISP, but they know they know what the packet is. They don't necessarily know what site you're going to, anything else, but they know what you're connecting to in a way. So they could just block that, so you won't ever be able to get on things like Tor, for example. So they'll know every move you're making.
Perfect point. It's a truly perfect point. I actually didn't think about the repercussions for anonymity, and this is actually going to be a huge blow for anonymity, really, because
it gives them just that much more control over all the packets you're sending back and forth.
And we already knew specifically that networks are already getting really, really irritated with the use of Tor and other ways to subvert tracking, because, I mean, it kind of messes with their data packets that they sell to other corporations to help market. But it's... Oh, man, this actually could...
Almighty Google.
Almighty Google. Please listen intently. Talking to you too, Apple. That's another weird topic. We'll have to one day talk about the Apple Google dynamic. But it's...
Which one's going to be Skynet?
Google. But it's... The anonymity thing is a really good point. I think right now, when it comes to the internet, anonymity should be something people are definitely worried about. The amount of information that is now on the internet about what you do, what I do, is kind of odd. It's kind of weird that they can just collect these packets and deal with them willy-nilly rather than getting rid of them. Instead, they store your specific traffic, which is fine. I understand why they do it, because, I mean, insurgencies, you got to find a way to track them online if they're being weird. But it's...
That's an interesting... Keep going.
Anyway, it's... We do have a right to not have our information dissected all the time. And especially... especially as individuals, when we deal with things in the outside world, we might be trying to like get to somewhere, like specifically, perfect example, China with their lovely filtered internet. So what happens to people like us that want to get on certain parts of the net? Will we always have to use these weird anonymity browsers and deal with those abysmal speeds? They
Uh,
they want to choke point us is essentially what's going to happen. And I don't.
I mean, they could outright block it.
Yeah.
It's not well speed. They know what they know the packet's going to Tor, so they block that packet.
It's going to further get odd. I think the first things we're going to start seeing on Netflix packages, because Comcast, that was the first thing Comcast was actually pushing for, was they started throttling people when they noticed that they were streaming these data packets from Netflix, and they were trying to find a way to properly.
I mean, all this stuff has came up before. It started happening in the '90s. It started happening a few years ago. This is new.
And what's funny is I don't think people are realizing it. At the end of the day, it is not a single party issue. It never has been. This happened.
They're all bought.
This almost happened in the Obama administration, and now it's almost it has happened in the Trump administration. It's going to hurt the information we get every day, and the internet is a utility. Okay, I need it every day. I do tons of database research. I need to be able to get to certain websites to dissect my information as quick as possible. Otherwise, if I can't, my capstone that took me 4 months will take me a greater than a year. So, this irks me more than anything else. Because,
I mean, just from the education side, that's literally how it's all changing. I mean, you look at a lot of schools and stuff that are trying to go to online curriculum and everything else.
It's
all just schools that already can't pay for anything. Now you want to charge them more. That way they have access to certain high-speed platforms.
What I want to know more than anything is if the appeals don't work, if the fighting is fruitless, which I hope not, knock on wood, it's what extent are people going to be pushed, and what will become the predominantly heavy areas of the internet? So, in that regard, I'm meaning to how much growth in the technology center will we see if only the largest people that are around now get the majority of the traffic? This is inhibiting, startup businesses, .coms, related things.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's anti-compete in nature, huh? Who would have thunk?
Well, not only that, you go back to the whole our government's supposed to be working for us. It's kind of how it's all set up, and this huge outcry, and just ignore them all. We don't care what the people say as long as we're getting paid.
My favorite is our senators. I'm ready to make you cry a little bit. So our senators accepted some of the least money when it came to hopping on board for the vote. So it's a good thing it didn't go to Congress, because I knew where they were leaning. Or that, and we had some good releases from the senators in Oklahoma. If you haven't seen it, you all should check out their Facebook pages, because, net neutrality laws are archaic and from the Obama administration. We've got a lot going for us. Politicians are super excited for this, both parties, because at the end of the day, they're going to benefit.
They'll get paid.
Yeah, they got paid. Their lobby groups are done.
Yeah.
But definitely, I still lean on the thing that people need to keep pressure on their senators and their House representatives.
Oh, yeah. Make them do what they're supposed to do.
You need to make
sure. They're supposed to be listening to us.
Exactly. It's a representative, not a dictatorial thing.
Exactly.
And I think definitely this is my almost plea to everyone to not stop sending email, to not stop calling. You need to have your senators know that you as their constituent will be pushing and continuing forward, that net neutrality needs to exist in the current state of the United States infrastructure, You need to make sure you let them know that the infrastructure is anti-compete in current nature, and you need to cite the certain competitors in your area, whether that be 2 or 4 of them. You could even show them price differences that show that it's completely negligible, that they won't be competing with one another, that they're content with the current prices that they charge, and they will probably be doing the same techniques when they start cutting up the internet speeds for whatever packages they want to offer. It's a dangerous spot to be in when you become complacent in policy, especially with the gravitational pull trying to take you away from this issue. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, but this is definitely something that can affect us in the future and will continue to affect us if it is allowed to stay in its new state. But that's the end of my soapbox. What about you, Brad?